I screamed at my pregnant SIL and told my husband to choose me or her. I know this sounds wrong, but please hear me out. I'm currently typing this all up while my husband's entire family is sitting downstairs. So, I 29F, have been married to my husband for 8 years. About 2 months ago I had my third miscarriage, 31 weeks. I won't be talking about it because it makes me feel so depressed, but you'll need to remember this. About 4 months ago, my sister-in-law, 20, came crying at our doorstep telling us she's pregnant and her boyfriend didn't want anything to do with the pregnancy, and had nowhere to go. My husband and I openly took her in, welcomed her into our home with open arms. For the first few weeks, it was really hard for her, understandably. I sat with her for hours, holding her when she cried, binging our favorite TV shows, eating so much ice cream we quite literally fell into a coma. It was really bonding for us, so I thought, here's where it starts going downhill. I take pride in my neat, clean home. My sister-in-law on the other hand did not. She would leave her clothes all around the house, leave her dirty dishes wherever, even went as far in leaving her sex toys on our living room table. I tried to talk to her directly before I talked to my husband. She immediately started crying and told me she'd try to be cleaner. I hugged her, told her it was okay, but this is a clear boundary for me. She told me it wouldn't happen again, but it only got worse. She told me I was expected to do her laundry, dishes, and clean her room daily because she's the pregnant one. Well, I do understand how hard it is being pregnant. I just couldn't allow feeling like a maid in my own home. Disclaimer, I bought this house, not my husband. It was all me, not to mention my recent loss of my child. So, I told my husband, but what he told me shocked me. His exact words were, "Honey, she's going through a lot right now. We really should be helping her out. Plus, it might make you feel better to take care of someone who's pregnant." I was pissed to say the least. Make me feel better? She's going through a lot? We need to help her? Letting her stay with us wasn't enough? While I don't want to invalidate her pain, my husband and I were also going through our own problems. Anyways, we moved on. I did my best to maintain work and the household chores. My husband works 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. so he isn't around to help much. I work full-time from home, so it's been super stressful. When I even try to ask for help from my sister-in-law, she always makes an excuse, even if she's just watching TV. The one thing that pushed me over the edge was I went out to buy my one food that I have actually enjoyed eating after my miscarriage. I wrote my name on it and directly asked my sister-in-law to not eat it. Well, I went to go to my fridge to get it, and you'll never guess, she freaking ate it. Now you may think it's just food. I buy all the groceries, basically pay all the bills. I don't mind people having some of my food, but the one thing I asked to not be touched, gets touched. I told my husband and of course he rubbed it into my face that she's pregnant. I need to be less selfish, and life is about sacrifices. I was so upset I told him I felt like him and her were the horrible roommates people talk about on Reddit. He didn't take that well lol. Which leads us to my title. My sister-in-law planned a random baby shower party thing at my house. I personally didn't know if I could even be home when this was happening. I felt so hurt that she wouldn't talk to me knowing everything that has happened and that she would just invite random strangers into another person's home before asking. My husband urged me to go, told him it would permanently affect mine and her relationship. So, I told him I'd go. About halfway through the party my husband and SIL announced that they wanted to show the nursery to everyone. I was confused. Nursery? She was staying that long? What room did she turn into a nursery? They told everyone to head upstairs. That's when it hit me. They were talking about my nursery. For my baby I had just lost. A wave of emotions hit me when I saw everyone in my baby's nursery telling her what a good job they did setting it up. My setup, for my baby, that my body failed to give me. I just lost it. I started sobbing, then that sadness turned into pure rage. I started yelling at my sister-in-law, telling her she's the foulest human for putting me through everything she has for the last few months, making me feel like I was a maid, or an object for her convenience. Through choked up tears I turned to my husband whose jaw was on the floor. I turned my head to see his entire family just staring at me. I lost it again. Yelling, I looked at my sister-in-law telling her, how dare she use my nursery for my baby? How dare she think she has the right? What she told me made me fall to my knees sobbing. It's not my fault you couldn't produce a child. Why let this go to waste? You're so selfish. My husband tried to pick me up off the floor, but I yelled again, standing to my knees, which were now shaking. I told him, pick. A dumbfound look on his face. I yelled again, pick, me or her. He couldn't even muster up anything to say. I just looked at him, pure butyrol. I pushed past the crowd of family and ran straight up here to type this out. Even if no one sees this, at least it's helped me let these emotions out. Now's the point where I ask, am I the a-hole? Update, sorry for any typos or misspelt words. I'm not quite sure if this is the proper way to do an update, but hopefully everyone can see it. First, I just want to address a few comments. You can skip this part if you don't care lol. I know I had a stillborn. The only reason I say miscarriage is because that is what my obstetrician told me was happening. Second off, some people have been saying this story is fake because of the way I described the argument. Falling to my knees, pure betrayal. Yes, I figured out I spelt it wrong. I can assure you it is not. I cannot make anyone believe me, but this is my life, so you can either think it's fake or not. Here's the update everyone's been asking for. Buckled up, it's a long one. After posting my story on Reddit, I sat on my bed, wiping my tears and telling myself I will not take this disrespect. I walked downstairs, shutting my nursery door on the way. I was greeted with everyone comforting my sister-in-law. I kindly asked everyone besides my sister-in-law and husband to respectfully get the fuck out of my house. After all the dirty looks and shaming, it was just my husband, sister-in-law and myself. They sat themselves on the couch, not saying anything. I sat with them. The silence felt like forever. None of us had anything to say. I knew I'd have to start the conversation. I looked at my husband and said, "Did you decide?" He looked at me just staring. I asked again in a firm tone this time. He ended up mumbling some sort of insult and I couldn't really make out what he said. Something with bitchy. I stood up and told them both to get out. Then they wanted to talk, telling me this is all a misunderstanding. They're sorry, blah blah blah. I grabbed a backpack from my shoe closet and told them to pack their shit. My sister-in-law told me I couldn't just make her leave, and I was a horrible person. I laughed in her face and told her this is my house, and I can do whatever I wanted. My husband stood next to me and told her it was only for a little while. I turned to him and said, "Oh, you too, get out." He got all mad and told me we were a married couple and that this isn't how marriage works. I told him, no it is not. Marriage is where two people support each other, and not treat their wife like shit. They both ended up leaving after many insults towards me. Oh, but wait, it's not over. This morning as I was getting ready for a Zoom meeting with a few other coworkers, when my husband showed up, I let him in telling him to get whatever he needed and to go because I had to work. He started apologizing and telling me he wants to make it right. I told him I just need time away from him. Then he threw in my face, "Well, it's not my fault you lost our children. Maybe this would have never happened." My sister was right. You are selfish. I have never ever made my husband feel like he cannot grieve with me over this. Never made him feel less than because of his pain. I turned around and slapped him in the face. I never condone violence, and I'm very upset I would ever do that to another human, but I just couldn't deal with this. He took a step back and then threw all of my makeup on the floor, which I get, but then he started breaking all of my decor in my bathroom. I yelled at him to stop and that I was sorry, but he just kept going, even going as far as punching a hole in my bathroom wall. It was like I was seeing all of his bottled up emotions from our children's death come out, but he went too far when he tried to grab me, yelling in my face. I kicked him off and told him to get the fuck out. He walked out of the bathroom, and I watched him break a few more items as he left. The second he left I had a panic attack, looking at the mess he made, to even just seeing how much he hid his pain. I called my mother and told her everything that has been happening. I don't talk to my family much due to some past trauma with them. She told me she was on her way. The second she got here, I just broke down and she held me. Then she stood up and started taking pictures of everything he broke. I asked her what she was doing, and she turned to me and said, "We're suing this boss." I honestly didn't even argue. I was so hurt by everything my husband did to me. My mom packed up my computer and I grabbed a few outfits. My mom and I drove to a hotel, and she insisted on staying with me. While I finished up work, my mom called a locksmith and my attorney. I will be divorcing him as well. So, there it is. Here's the update everyone has been waiting for. I feel guilty for just giving up on my husband and 8 years of our marriage, but it's time for a divorce. I can't live like this, and neither can my husband. I wish I could say we moved on, forgave each other, and I got to see my sister-in-law have her baby. But that's not reality. If anything else happens, I will let you all know. Thank you, guys, for the support and help with this situation. Now story 2. Kicked out my husband after finding photos from the nanny. I'm new to Reddit, but my little sister suggested I ask here. I'm 28F. My daughter is Cassie 11 months and my husband is Alex 35. So basically it's just what the title says. I had Cassie and then returned to work, psychologist, as I could never be a som. I'm actually French but live in the US. So when I returned at the 4-month mark, as I had a difficult birth, we looked around to find a nanny to look after Cassie whilst myself and Alex were at work. We saw a few girls, but then one of Alex's colleagues suggested his daughter who had dropped out of college. Let's call her Liv 20F. Everything went well. Admittedly, I did notice her being quite attached to Cassie, but I brushed it off as a good friendship between the two. She also liked Alex. It was obvious she had a crush on him, always batting her lashes and giggling. I actually found it amusing as I'm confident in myself. He always laughed it off with me too. But then on Thursday night, he asked me to do something on his phone whilst he bathed Cassie, and I saw some pictures flash up from Liv. When I looked at them, they were obviously sexy nudes. She was wearing skimpy lingerie and in provocative poses. I looked back at the history and she had been sending these for a while. As far as I can see, Alex has never responded, but obviously texts can be deleted. When I asked him, he got defensive and told me to stop using my psychiatrist tricks on him. I was not happy with his non-answers and it ended up in a shouting match waking Cassie. So I got him a bag and threw him out. Told him he's not welcome back until I have answers. I'm considering taking Cassie back home to see my family in France for a little bit. His mother and friends have been blowing up my phone saying I'm being too harsh, and they were harmless texts. Nevertheless, I feel disrespected, and that doesn't fly with me. Was I too harsh? Should I accept his claims that he never responded? Edit. Not husband, fiancé. Also, I'm not taking Cassie to France. We will visit my family for a few weeks and Alex has given consent. Update. I'd like to start this off addressing the comments stating I'm kidnapping my daughter. I'm taking her with me to visit my family back home in France for a few weeks. Her father has given his consent. It is a non-issue. There was also confusion about my job. I work in the psychology field and I was just using this post as a sounding board really. The responses from his friends and mother made me question myself. As stated, I informed Liv's father of what happened. He was furious both with Alex and Liv. He apologized to me and said he will try to get the truth from her and that she rebels any chance she gets, but this was disgusting. I then looked through the camera in my daughter's nursery and I saw a clip of Liv asking if she wanted a sister or brother from Miss Livy and Daddy. That made me feel sick to my stomach. She responded to her dismissal with denials, but I told her I had the footage and that she was to never lay a hand on my baby again. But if she wanted Alex so bad she could have him. I reminded her that how you get them is how you lose them, and he would soon tire of a 20-something college dropout kid. Alex returned to the house temporarily for us to talk. After me showing him the camera footage and texts from Liv, he broke down and said he was really sorry. He admitted that whilst nothing had physically happened between them, they had been exchanging photos and messages for a month or two. He showed me the original messages and it was her who had pursued him. She started by saying she felt like a schoolgirl around him and said she needed advice from an important man like him, and sent a photo of her in lingerie asking if it was sexy. He started out not really responding, but after a few texts he responded and it started from there. She was saying things about them being a happy family together, but he never responded to those texts. He begged me to forgive him and start fresh. He said we can move and that we have plenty of money. He will do whatever I want. I told him what I want is to go home for a few weeks so that what I'm doing. Cassie and I are flying tomorrow. He honestly looks so pathetic right now. They are welcome to each other. There will be no wedding and I will be consulting with a custody lawyer once I get to France to see my options both in the US and internationally. But as someone in the comments said, I stayed in the US not because I think it's a good place to live, but because that's where Alex was based and wanted to build our family. However, I will always support the daughter-father relationship, but he cannot have our daughter and his nanny. Now that's not happening. I would like to move home and most certainly away from the slutty nanny. I am not looking for custody advice. Mini update from Liv father. He has found and sent me some of the deleted messages. Liv talks about wanting me out of the picture so she can be Cassie's mom. Update 2. Hi guys. Thanks so much to all of you putting support and advice under my 2 posts. There are also some very obvious insecure incels in the comments claiming I'm kidnapping my daughter, you're giving my sister and I some great laughs. Anyway, for the update, Cassie and I have been in France for 2 days now. It's been so wonderful to be back with my family after missing them for so long. They've been doting on Cassie, especially my mother and father, who even though are divorced remain very amicable for the sake of my sisters, and my mama had a whole room set up with toys and blankets for Cassie. I've also been loving the wine and cheese, and gossiping with my sisters. It's been very good to let loose after all of the stress honestly, and I've gotten to ride my family's horse, and show him to Cassie finally. Someone suggested I meet up with some old friends to go out and let loose, so that's exactly what I did last night. I had a great night meeting back up with some of my old university friends. We went out into the city, had some great food and wine and went dancing. There's this one guy from our group who used to very flirty with me back in the day. Anyways, one thing or another happened and we ended up going back to his place. It was good actually, he listened to what I wanted and we were both very pleased at the end. Smile. Cassie's happy as am I. I'm meeting a lawyer today and my ex has been ringing. I let him talk to Cassie whenever he wants, but I'm refusing to engage whilst I'm on my break. Edit. People need to calm down. I didn't say I'd had sex with him. Since people seem to want details, we went back to his, talked about life and had a make out session. Although it doesn't matter as I had kicked me ex to the curb already. Also, Liv contacted me out of anger when Alex cut all contact with her to show that they had a one-night stand a few weeks before I found out. Update 3. Hi guys. A lot of you still comment on my old posts asking for an update, so I thought I'd let you guys know what's happened in the past few months, as I'm sure it'll anger the men in the comments again. So after going to France to visit my parents immediately after what happened 6 months ago, I agreed with my family that I needed to come home to France with my daughter. My family said they would provide any help I needed with moving and lawyers, and my father said a prayer we never had the wedding as there was no divorce to have to go through. When I returned to the US, I informed my ex-fiancé that there would be no compromise or discussion on my next steps. Cassie and I were returning to France so I would have my support system closer and I wouldn't feel so isolated. I told him I'd never try to stop his relationship with Cassie and that he would be welcome to visit her in France depending on where he decided to live, and that I would happily bring her back to the States for visits periodically. However, I wouldn't compromise with Liv. If I found out she had been near my daughter, I would stop all contact between him and Cassie. I felt like after what he had put me through and how he had disrespected me, I was quite gracious with my offers. We managed to sort the move out in the next 2 months and sign an agreement which stated I was the primary custodian of our daughter and I made most decisions regarding her. It set out specific times Alex would be able to see or have Cassie. He basically agreed to all of this because he thought once I had left the US I would become more sympathetic and let him back in once we were in France. I didn't bother to correct him frankly because it benefited myself. I found a really nice apartment a street over from my parents, so I moved in there once my parents and sister had helped me get it decorated before I came to France. We've been here for just over 4 months now and Cassie is settling in great. She goes to a daycare with my friend's son and has made great connection here with other kids. I'd forgotten how much more social the side of having kids was in Europe compared to the US. Once I was added to the parents group chat, the other mothers had immediately suggested welcome drinks to get to know me better, and I've made some amazing friends with other moms and dads. I didn't have any of this in the US. It's really helped Cassie's language skills as her French is developing much better than when it was just me speaking it to her. I've put her in baby ballet like my parents did with me and she's loving it. We've gotten a rescue cat called Walter and Cassie adores him. He sleeps at the end of her bed and looks after her all the time. Alex has been over twice since, even though I had given him plenty more chances to see Cassie, however he didn't take me up on them. For context, there is no issue with money or his passport to excuse why he won't fly. We spent Christmas with my parents and my sister and her partner, and it was just a lovely celebration after the shit that happened. I've started seeing one of the doctors from the new hospital I work in now. It's still relatively new, so she's met Cassie only briefly. She works in the emergency department and she's honestly amazing. I did jokingly say Alex had put me off men, but didn't mean to take it so literally. Bisexual woman, shocking, I know. It's going slow as she knows what I've just come out of, but she's very laid back and a go with the flow type of person, which is exactly what I needed. Alex's mother is not happy as she is of the opinion I should have just ignored what happened between Alex and Liv. However, I'm not just a little American housewife who will ignore her husband's indiscretions. Thank you all for your advice and support in my initial posts. Edit: for all the Americans getting annoyed at the phrase little American housewife. Not my words, I was quite literally quoting Alex's mother and what she said to me. She is an American. She said when I was in her family I was expected to act like a normal American housewife and forgive my husband like her and her daughter do. None of that European nonsense. Edit. It's really funny to see the men in the comments proving that there is still a double standard. I don't know why I as the mother am expected to stay in a country that doesn't speak my first language, where I don't have any family, little friends, no support, have to deal with Alex's family all for his sake so he doesn't have to make an extra effort to see his daughter when he was the one who decided to break the family in the first place. Also, Americans, I'm sorry I'm not insulting you, lol.